Days after the death of NASCAR legend Kyle Busch, fans are still reeling. He was set to race at the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway this past weekend before he was hospitalized. Instead, his memory was honored at the race this weekend. His entire family in attendance. Fans say they are mourning, but they believe carrying on is what Kyle would have wanted.
The only way you can honor his memory is to race. You don't stop living in someone's absence. You know, you continue on, you be strong. Kyle has dealt with loss, other drivers prior, and Kyle said, if it ever happens to me, let's race. Line up and do what I love to do. And that's the best way we can go about it, is to race in honor and memory of him.
Kyle Busch died from complications of severe pneumonia that progressed into sepsis. He was just 41 years old. Our 9 News health expert, Dr. Kyle Busch, is joining us to talk about this. So we've heard of this, but that seems like impossible to believe somebody 41 dies of this.
It is very hard to believe. So let's talk about what sepsis is. It's an infection gone awry, essentially. Okay. So it can be triggered by a bacteria, a virus, a fungus, really any kind of infection. But when it progresses into the bloodstream, or when it causes the immune systems to start damaging the organ, so the reaction of the immune system, essentially does you in, you start having organ damage and organ shutdown. And so for Kyle, I mean, he was only 41 years old, as you said, and it's unusual for us to see a 41-year-old die from sepsis, because one of the biggest predictors of risk in sepsis is usually in older age.
Yeah.
Is it common for pneumonia to lead to sepsis? So
that is the most common cause of sepsis. Now, to be clear, every pneumonia is not going to lead to sepsis. In fact, most pneumonias are just outpatient. They're what's called community-acquired pneumonias. They resolve on their own. But if you get hospitalized with pneumonia, the likelihood that you have some degree of sepsis is usually about 25 to 50%.
Wow.
And in medical school, they taught us we should have something called a sepsis score. So when someone comes into the hospital, whether it's a pneumonia or urinary tract infection, even a skin infection, we give them what's called a sepsis score, because the earlier we catch it, the better they do with it. So if they start to show signs of organ dysfunction, heart rate going up, blood pressure going down, kidneys misbehaving, liver misbehaving, we treat them early and aggressively, and that's how we can turn them around.
So they can, there is treatment. But I got to get back to the pneumonia thing, because first of all, you don't think of younger people getting that, but it does happen. And I'm guessing that you're going to say that a lot of people get something that is in your lungs and you think, oh, I'm going to get past it. You got to get in, right?
You have to. And with him, I mean, of course, we're Monday morning quarterbacking, but if you rewind back, on May 10th, he had actually radioed in to his teammates saying that a doctor was waiting for him to give him a shot. Now, the Associated Press had reported that he may have had a sinus infection, which we know can get worse with racing because of the G-forces that you can have on the sinuses. And then, you know, he won a race after that, but fast forward just a few days later, you know that racing puts a stress on your organs as it is. You know that when you have an infection, doing a race probably is not the best idea. And we know that pneumonia compromises your lungs' ability to deliver oxygen to your tissues, which you need when you're racing, because you're amped up and your organs need more oxygen. So you fast forward 10 days later and they found him coughing up blood, having a fever, and nearly passing out and being unresponsive, and sadly passed away just a day later.
Such an awful tragedy. 41-year-old athlete. If anyone's been in one of those cars, it is like, it's hot when you're feeling well. I can't imagine what it was like when he was feeling like that. You say it's treatable. How do you treat sepsis?
It's called goal-directed therapy. So we actually have a protocol where we sometimes even put a catheter and measure the pressures, but you give them fluids, you give them antibiotics, you put them in the intensive care unit, you measure their urine output so that you know exactly what their organs are doing. You're tracking their blood every few hours to see how much acid they have. Very clear, goal-directed protocol can turn sepsis around very quickly. Now, it's interesting because we talked about him being only 41. Some people actually have a genetic predisposition that makes them more likely to go into sepsis or septic shock. Also, of course, the infection itself, depending on what type of bacteria or virus it was. We know during COVID, we lost a lot of people from sepsis from COVID. So it's not clear what type of pneumonia he had, bacterial or viral, whether he had a genetic predisposition, but these are all factors that you would think about even in a healthy person that could cause sepsis.
Wow. Well, it certainly is something no one will forget anytime soon, because it's really devastating, and hopefully people will start paying close attention.
But the message here is don't tough it out. Just a urine infection, it's just a cold, it's just a flu, it's just a sinus infection. If you don't feel well, you have to go see your doctor early.
Okay, we'll be calling. We'll get in. Thank you, Dr. Kohli.